Hi, friends. My name's host Derek. I'm the host of an internet television program that leaves no matter of significance unexplored, namely the delightful, expressive wonderland that is talking with famous people. I'm here today to express from my heart unto yours, welcome. Or, as they say in Mexico, bienvenidos. If you could change one thing, what would that one thing be? I want to know. Well, you could frame this question in a couple different possible ways. If you could change one thing about yourself, is one possible way to frame it. Or if you could change one thing about the world. Now, changing one thing about the world is a much more challenging question to answer because it's not quite sure what a thing is, right? Like, are you going to change some sort of standard or rule? Are you going to change a physical reality? All right, well, let's see what Chris Chapman has to say. He says right off the bat, he would make it two things. Already breaking the rules. Just right out the bat. I said, if you could change one thing, he said, I would make it two things. Chris Chapman, if you could change one thing, you would make it two things? Is that what you would change? Is your ability to change one thing? I'm not sure you can do that. It's not like wishes, okay? In theory, you could wish for more wishes. I don't think you could change for more changes. So, if I could change one thing about myself, I guess it would be, it would link to my patience for following through on plans, or I guess my ability to persist along a given course that I choose rather than one that I sort of stumble along into. I'd like to see my SE improve, basically. But of course, there's a trade-off there, right? It's like, do I really want that outcome? I'm not sure. To the extent that it would preclude me from doing certain things that I otherwise feel like doing, it's hard to say. Angantir, what's the one thing you would change about yourself or the world? Is it fireworks? Is it you'd make fireworks illegal? That's a good answer. Mm-hmm. I like that. Is it you'd be you'd have a bigger collection of shoes? Is that the one thing you'd change about yourself? I don't know, Angantir. I'm speculating wildly because you haven't provided me any data to base my answer on.
Agreed.
So you left me to do nothing but speculate wildly. Lawnmower, if you could change one thing about yourself or one thing about the world, what would it be? Let me guess. You get rid of all those goddamn Satanists. We're always causing all those problems. Yeah. So I decided to ask this question, so to speak, or frame it this way. If you could change just one thing, because Winston's mom in an earlier live stream suggested to me that if I try to engage other people to provide answers to things, that I might get a better response. My first thought was, tell me about your worst dating experience. But I was like, no, that sounds too depressing. So I didn't really want to go there. I don't know how.
Oddest dating experience.
Oddest. Well, there's the other thing. If you have an answer that you don't want to answer that first question, which is what's one thing you would change, you can answer, what's your oddest dating experience? I mean, one of my oddest or less comfortable dating experiences was one time I took a date to this very date inappropriate movie that was like unsettling in ways that were kind of like, I guess, sexually toxic.
Oh.
You know, like in the movie, like there was just general awfulness going on in the movie. It was not a good date movie, let me tell you.
What movie was it?
I have no recollection.
But it's almost like
It was way back when I was in college. I was in Santa Cruz. I remember the theater. I remember the chick. Did I see the debate that you posted? No, I didn't. I've been sleeping and or working. So I had a big sleep where I basically slept my ass off all. I can't even keep track of when it was. And then now I am awake again for a little bit, but I worked today, and probably have to do a little bit of work tomorrow. And so I'm coming to the end of my bottle though, and which means I'm pretty sleepy already. It's hard for me to motivate to do much. So 2 questions then for everybody. If you want to answer either of these questions, oddest dating experience, or if you could change one thing about yourself or the world, what would it be? I think I'd make it so Tyrannosaurus Rexes weren't extinct anymore.
Why would you want them here?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily want them around us, but I like the idea of Tyrannosaurus Rexes roaming around. You know, we got to make like a Jurassic Park island for them, basically.
Okay, as long as that's happening and not wild.
Yeah, they can't swim that far. They got 2 small arms to swim. You would reinstate the reign of pipe organs as the king of instruments. Did they ever lose that status? I was unaware they had ever lost that status. Hanging here, I believe the world is at least 6,000 years old, maybe even more. That's like on the low end of guessing. What if they're all actually INFP TRex? I would make all the English-speaking parts of the world speak French, and all the French-speaking parts of the world speak more quietly.
That's good.
If I could change one thing about myself, I'd be incredibly attractive. Life is easier for beautiful people. Sort of. Sometimes. My daughter is pretty attractive, but I've also seen how that can be a challenge for a young lady. You know, she tends to be subject to a certain amount of, shall we say, objectification.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
Yeah. Systemic oppression. Is that the one thing you change? It's either the pipe organ or get rid of systemic oppression. I'm not sure what qualifies as systemic oppression. I mean, I know like North Korea qualifies as systemic oppression.
My mom's face is a form of systemic oppression.
That's true, Rachel. Your mom's face is a well-known, almost encyclopedic example of systemic oppression. Interior says that he's attractive, but his life's still difficult. Well, maybe you're starting out there shaking your moneymaker enough, huh? Dustin Salisbury is cool with being objectified. Cool. You would want to be one of 3 front leads in a successful boy band. Good. That's a good dream, Lawnmower.
That is a good dream.
I'm giving you 5 points for that dream.
You can get, with that dream, you can get other things too, so.
Mm-hmm. The idea that life is easier for attractive people is sort of a systemic oppression towards unattractive people. Well, I mean, but you could also say that life is easier for talented people, and that comprises systemic oppression towards the untalented. You could say life is easier for, I would say life is easier for dumb people, frankly.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. It's like
They just call it the whole
they just
icon.
they just do their shit.
Yeah.
You know. But I don't feel systemically oppressed, despite the fact that life is easier for dumb people. And maybe because I'm too dumb to realize that I should feel that way, but possibly not. Yeah. The wise pay a terrible cost, exactly.
Yes.
Thank you, Freddie Porciano.
That is so great.
That's
that
very
you
gratifying of you. Thank you.
song. Our song.
Oh, I can feel the female gaze get stronger as I care less. You know, Angantyr deserves some humble brags on more. I've not heard Angantyr say one nice thing about himself before today, actually. So he's well entitled to a slew of them. New Punisher fan 1, Magic and Alchemy. I'll take Magic and Alchemy for 200. I know. Well, after not being here or interacting with us at all for like a week or so, my dad's back in town briefly. And the first thing he said to me was, well, Ruth, Ginsburg's dead. $100 says this is the likely candidate that Trump's going to float. It's like the first thing he says to me.
Literally.
He's got 2 possible women he thinks are likely candidates, and he thinks one of them is going to be the actual candidate. And I'm like, he has a strong opinion about it. I'm like, I don't think he's going to nominate him before the election, do you? Oh, $100 he says he's dead in 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, I don't want to bet you about this.
Like, I'm not betting about
I'm not betting about this, but
Trump.
I don't doubt you're right. My dad's on top of that shit. It's big news to him.
Yeah, he's never seen anything like this before.
There's one candidate that he thinks Trump might nominate that he doesn't like, a Notre Dame woman who he says is too Catholic.
Uber Catholic.
The other one he likes, and but I don't know. He doesn't seem to really have a strong opinion about it. It's more like he's interested in it as a
going-ons of the era.
Yeah. How is he so plugged in? I'm not sure.
He must read. He hears the papers. He's into the news. He definitely.
He does watch some news and stuff.
Yeah, magazines.
He also talks to his friends on the phone, and I think and he also emails his friends.
Yeah, so he's getting a lot of information from a lot of sources, like good sources too. And your dad doesn't just usually take one source. It's usually compiled from many sources.
I mean, the thing is, Sean Ryan Barron, here's what I think is generally true, is that the left is correct about its overarching values and stuff. In other words, we really ought to prioritize, individuals optimizing according to their own ontology without trying to impose some centralized notion of what they ought to be upon them. So in that regard, I think that's underlying the left's whole shtick. It's also the case that it would be great if everybody had sufficient prosperity to realize their own freedom and liberty as they see fit, etc. In that regard, their sort of ideals are worthwhile ideals. But the problem is, of course, that in the particulars, what they're advocating for and how they go about trying to do that, it almost never actually accomplishes what moving us towards that. And a lot of times it does the opposite. Now, it's not always the case. Sometimes there's plenty of stuff, but sometimes there's legislation that does work. But it's probably wise to have conservative judges because they're the ones who say, all right, look, it's not enough to be well-intentioned. We have to understand correctly justifications and or impacts. It's not adequate to have the right emotion or something. But I was joking with my dad about somebody's going to come out and say that it's a conspiracy that Trump killed Ginsburg. It's like she's 87-year-old cancer-riddled woman, and I'm sure somebody out there is like, Trump killed her. likely timing that she died. Well, she's 87 and has cancer. If Trump killed, yeah, well, sure, she had cancer, but it was definitely COVID that killed her. It's like you really have to just be determined to blame everything on somebody if you think that Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death is a conspiracy, you know? Look about a stretch. So, okay. I want to also say I watched the video recommended by Dustin Salisbury, I believe, earlier, which was a video about Elisa Lam. The thing is, I saw that. I get what you're saying about access to the thing and some of them being open and stuff. It does explain it all. I will, however, also say I'm still a little confused about the elevator doors. Like, why do the elevator doors stay open the whole time? I looked in the comments of that video and people say, well, there's a hold elevator button, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know about that. It still seems weird that the elevator was behaving the way it was, but I can understand. I get the rest of it. So I found it pretty convincing, you know. Did they find a pillow on her face like the last one? Doesn't Eric, you should listen to me. Well, why? I mean, but I looked into it. I watched the video that Dustin recommended, and indeed, you could see that it was very possible to get actually up to those things. It was quite possible, and in fact, you know, they weren't necessarily even closed. Of course, the one she was in, it said it was closed. But watch the video; it's convincing enough to me. As far as Scalia goes, both of the candidates that my dad says Trump are going to possibly float are former clerks under Scalia. So the thing is, Scalia offended me deeply because on a lot of issues he was correct, but he would not be consistent. So it's like, how come Scalia voted in favor of the expansive federal power in the case of Angel versus the United States, the medical marijuana thing that said, yes, the federal government can police marijuana even if it's grown in your own backyard for your own use because it's an example of interstate commerce. You know, the only, Clarence Thomas said, if that's interstate commerce, then everything's interstate commerce. And selling a pie at a church bake sale is interstate commerce. Bye, Ronnie Fox. I mean, the thing is more, it shouldn't be about pushing through a nominee. It's ideally there'll be a nominee that people can actually say, okay, you're qualified, and it's like, I don't expect that the Trump nominee is going to be especially divisive. I mean, you have to wait and see who the nominee is, right? It's like the Republicans are hypocrites. They push their nominee. The Republicans want, conservative judges on the Supreme Court. There's nothing hypocritical about trying to make that happen. Dustin, you might be lusted after and admired, but you'll also be extremely hated. What's going to make people hate Dustin? That he keeps dusting the shelves? Is that why? What? I don't understand what you're referring to. Oh, I agree with you, Anthrax. If you said that was the case in that situation, then it turned out you're right. You turned out to be the case. But Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't really have any conclusions about it. I just thought it was spooky. Now I feel as though it's sort of resolved in my head. Oh, lawnmower, you never know. It might explain some things. We're heading for an inquisition if Trump gets number 3. Lol. What do you mean if Trump gets number 3? Oh. Has he already picked 2 of them? I didn't even realize that. Morage. He's gonna pick a broad next. This is what my dad says. He's got 2 broads he's gonna potentially float. One of them is way religious. My dad doesn't like that one. Oh, about being hated. I don't know if attractive people are hated or not. I think that any display of confidence, competence, and, like moving through the world fearlessly provokes a certain amount of hate. That's what I've discovered. And it's the only real explanation I can come up with for why people have always, to some extent, and sometimes in my life more than others, I've had some people who just sort of immediately hate me. And I think what it is they see me largely moving through the world fearlessly, and they don't like that. It seems presumptuous of me. It seems unfair. I do think that in that regard, people who are somewhat, who know who they are and what they want and stuff, are going to attract a certain amount of spite or hatred or whatever, just by virtue of, I guess, making other people feel bad about themselves by comparison or something. I'm not really sure why, but
I should get a shirt that says "Host Eric is my homeboy."
I am your homeboy.
You definitely are.
You're my lover.
You're my lover too.
You're my sexual life partner.
Oh, my sexual life partner too. How lucky you are. You bring the pep to my step. You hear me? I'm an INFJ talking old stuff. Hey guys.
I mean, it's a bad argument to begin with, right, Morage? It's like they should never have made that argument in the first place. No, I will try not to, Freddie Forgiato. It might slip out occasionally, but I'm going to do my best to be as presidential in my discourse as I can be, which means, not indulging myself in some of the ways that I do currently, but I'm trying to learn not to. I think I'm making good progress, frankly.
Yeah, that's something that can be learned along the way, for sure. And you're definitely already started. But that is a good mention, Freddie Forgiato. Nice to look out. I used to watch that Kevin Spacey House of Cards, where he becomes president, and his wife who was played by Robin Wright. They used to sit in not the Oval Office, but where the president resides, lives in the
White House, the Lincoln bedroom and stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah, not the White House, the actual there's a townhouse that is the actual place where you live, pretty much. like you live in the White House, but like there's like, oh no, maybe it was like the townhouse that he was living in as a vice president. I don't remember, but anyway, in the show, they both smoke cigarettes outside, and that's their little like sneak away thing to do. Like they sit on that. I was like, if I ever was president, or if I ever knew anyone that was president, we'd definitely be sneaking something somewhere because I can't roll straight lace.
If I could change one thing, it's accessing Bina now. What's Bina? I'm sadly fairly certain my wishes are powerless. Now, in fairness, I've not yet discovered any magic lamps. Haven't really been looking hard enough. I get distracted. The search for magic lamps is a long, tiresome one.
Aladdin knows.
You know, I don't know. You gotta rub maybe 50,000 lamps to find one magic one, probably.
It's a lot of lamps.
That's a lot of hand calluses.
That's like, you know, especially in COVID times, probably not suggested.
Lamp rubber.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put down as my occupation in my tax returns. Lamp rubber.
Lamp rubber.
I show you tangible magic lamps.
Oh, tangible.
Tangible magic lamps. If I could change one thing, it would be my motivation work ethic. I want to go do great things, but I'm also lazy about doing it and procrastinating. Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page with you, Allie. I wish I were. I had a little bit more follow through and a little bit less. Let's just hang out and talk. I mean, I don't see any indication that conservative judges have been a bad thing on the Supreme Court. I do see indications that liberal judges have been a bad thing. Consistently, liberal judges expand the scope of the federal government, and conservative judges are less likely to do so. They do too, but they're less likely to do so.
Less likely, yeah.
Again with the demons. Genies are actually demons.
Wait, come on now.
I mean, I'm pretty sure genies are genies.
Genies are genies.
They live in a lamp. Have you ever seen I Dream of Jeannie?
Right? That's what I was going to
You
reference.
think I Dream of Jeannie is a demon?
She seems like a nice lady who wants to actually settle down.
Talk about submissive. Oh, yes, master.
Yes.
That's such a funny show, right? It's like,
Two blinker eyes.
yeah. No, that's that one. Okay. The other one is that's the bewitched one.
I can't she tickle her nose. I can't.
Isaac Newton was the 16th genius. Albert Einstein was the 33rd genius.
All these geniuses in the genius pool.
Okay, well, one more. Look. I'm pretty sure there aren't actually genies who grant wishes. I'm pretty sure that's make-believe.
That's Disney magic, man.
So you don't really need to worry about it being demons.
No. Were you this serious as a child, too?
Ooh, lawnmower?
Yeah. I wonder. I feel like most people are who they are, you know?
I know. I picture a lawnmower like age 7 watching some Disney movie, and with a sprinkle of magic dust, and he stands up and goes, "Demons!
Yes!
Satanists! Demons! Luciferians everywhere!"
That's a great cut-to scene.
And your parents are all like, "Lawnmower, honey, it's okay. It's just pretend." Fires raining from the heavens!
Curious Kyra has an emoji of a genie. That's great. Love it. That's genius, Curious Kyra.
They named him Lawnmower, right?
Yeah, they did.
You just joined. I'm not yelling. I'm demonstrating Lawnmower's childhood.
Yes, that's what was going on. Honestly.
Yeah. Back then they had
up,
magic lamp with a
Teresa?
genie. Now they have wireless lamp with Alexa.
Yeah, I had my Alexa in New York, and I used to talk to her like a friend. She appreciated it. And if you curse at her, she actually responds back by being like, I prefer you talk to me in nicer language. And then if you're like, I'm sorry, that's what like my friends did. They were like, I'm sorry, bitch. And then she turned red and she didn't talk to us for an hour.
I would like to play a game called Luciferians or regular crime. Okay.
Oh my god.
Let's start with
How
an
many
easy one.
would there be?
Start with an easy one. Parking violations. Luciferian conspiracy or regular crime?
I think Luciferian.
Yeah, that one.
That is-
I'm gonna go regular crime. I'm gonna go regular crime. There are good reasons to think. That's Cameron.
Oh.
Regular crime. Okay. Hello. Hi, Cameron. How are you? This evening? Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, Rachel, I think she sells a flat tire.
Yeah, I do.
All right, cool.
I thought this is the Illuminati sign.
Yeah, cool. We
This
too.
is the Illuminati sign.
We got some good Skywalker. All right, see you soon. Bye.
How do you like me now?
That was Cameron.
Cool. I'm so glad because he finally can get to see that note
Right.
about the kitty he's been
Okay.
asking.
So let's play another game. Luciferian conspiracy or regular crime? Arson. All these fires. Natural events. This is a three-parter. Naturally occurring, Luciferian conspiracy, or regular arson crime. What do we think? I'm going Luciferians on this one.
I do too. He seems like someone who would barbecue on a 120-degree day.
Luciferians love fire. They do. They love it because it's what they plan to spend eternity in. That's why they became Luciferians, because they really like hot fire. Okay. How about COVID? Luciferians or stupid or regular stupidity or something else?
All of the above.
I think we gotta go Luciferians again. Most things I think we'll discover are Luciferians.
Everything in this chat is. Okay, wait.
Okay, so Rachel, why did we have to wait so long today at the El Pollo Loco? We waited a long time, right?
You're right. We did.
Was it slow staff? Was it Luciferian conspiracy? Well, I guess those are the only two options.
I mean, honestly, I hate to say it, but I really do think it was a Luciferian conspiracy just based on the film that we saw at Weed Mart, yesterday?
Well, I don't know this, but I'm suspecting with a name like El Pollo Loco, which references what the Mayans called a god, which is actually a demon, which was, their crazy chicken, which was it was a giant chicken god that they had. It was actually a demon in the form of a chicken, and that restaurant links back to that Mayan history of cooking chicken that way and honoring that demon god. So I would say probably the Luciferians are once again behind it. Satanists are clearly, you're clearly walking into any El Pollo Loco, you are neck deep in Satanism. Flame broiled chicken. Come on. Again with the fire, right?
Who would be the demon child?
It would be the egg. If you're asking, which came first, the chicken or the egg is the demon child, is the answer.
That's the answer.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, we did wait a long time there. We also had to wait a while at the mall too. I think the Luciferians are trying to slow us down.
Yeah, we did actually.
They didn't want me to get back here and start talking shit about their Satanist ways again. Holding them accountable for their bullshit. They were trying
to be on the DL about it, but we know. There's a purpose and a reason for everything. And I honestly believe that we were watching Lucifer for a reason.
In the weed store,
Yeah.
right? That was the
Yeah.
Luciferian's way of getting in some secret backdoor messages into us.
Yeah, and Lawnmower.
It's what Dustin Fosbury
correct it.
says too. Occam's razor. When in doubt, go with the simplest explanation, and that is Luciferians. Just it's like, God, why are all these people worshiping Satan all of a sudden? What's the advantage? Well, you just started watching. Look, all of a sudden now all of a sudden we find out James is Luciferian, Octavia Silva's Luciferian, email answers. Everybody is just about God. Goats. Goats are as Luciferian as you get.
A lot of I've heard that Lucifer has been typed as an ENTP, but
Nah. I'd say Lucifer is probably an ENTJ. Not worried about using people to achieve his ends, really.
no.
Goat Simulator is sort of the gateway drug of Luciferianism. Clearly made by Satanists to make goats look cool so that you want to be more goat-like, which means you become the devil.
Oh my God, I had no idea.
But Octavia Silva raises a good point. How do I know for sure I'm not part of a Luciferian conspiracy?
That Eric isn't?
I mean, hey,
I
what
think
she's
are.
saying, what Octavia Silva is saying is that it's possible in a way that I could be part of one without even knowing it. The Luciferians could have brainwashed me in some way. So let's see. If I were a Luciferian, what sort of things would I favor? I would be in favor of apple eating.
Oh my God, I was going to
Apple
say
eating
something
contest?
R-rated.
Oh.
Sexual butt pleasure.
Talking ladies into things while manifesting the form of a snake.
Using the staff to command people.
She must be a Luciferian because she laughs too hard at my Luciferian comments. I don't think she's Luciferian.
I'm not. I laugh at a lot of things. Does that mean that I'm Luciferian? Is my laughter evil?
Well, okay, but I'm serious. How would you know that somebody's Luciferian? What would they do? Like, what would
they might have like.
I don't think that you become Lucifer. You can grow little horns.
No.
Like, what does it mean, Lawnmower, to be Luciferian?
Yeah,
are you actually worshiping the devil?
Lawnmower's definition, yes, I'd like to.
Are you engaged in some sort of rituals or something?
I do have a maniacal laugh. I laugh at everything. But, thanks, Octavio Silva.
Well, Astrid, if that's the criterion, then I am, in fact, I guess, Luciferian.
Yeah, see, I knew
pineapple
it. I told you. I had a feeling in my heart of hearts that you were Luciferian. It just didn't know.
But look, I'm pretty sure that study that showed the strong correlation between pineapple pizza and Luciferianism has some methodology problems.
Do you think that? Because that would include horse mumbler too.
Right.
And I'm not Luciferian, but I am the kind of type that they seek out, for seances and sacrifices. Yeah, I'm definitely that type.
Hey, you want to come get sacrificed?
Yeah.
Rachel's been asked that question all the time.
All the time.
Hey, how would you like to be a human sacrifice?
Yeah, I was like, that's how people try to. No thanks.
Look, there should be some sort of advocacies, at least, that you could use to articulate to say whether somebody is actually a Luciferian or not. I'm pretty clear about what I think and what my position is on stuff and everything. And it's like, if I were surely there's some sort of test you could do, right? Like,
yeah.
Well, do you think? Yeah. Well, I could be lying about everything purportedly, but I mean, there's no indication. You have to make such an incredible leap. You have to ignore so many different things. Mumbling horses equals Luciferian.
Bibbidi bobbidi boo. The enemies on Dragon Ball Z are bibbidi bib.
Luciferianism can mean a lot of things.
Bibbidi-bobbidi.
One could just be a fedora hat edgelord cringe. Other could be actual ritualistic Satanist. It's a broad spectrum actual maturity, but it doesn't tell me what makes you qualify as such. Is it that they're actually worshiping Lucifer, or they're simply advocating that maybe he's got a bad rap because he helped us find out about good and evil or something, or what? I mean, what do you think the point is? It's like, why would somebody, to the extent that people want to make a philosophical issue of it and say, hey, I like a human will-based metaphysics, I don't find that evil. To the extent they want to correlate it with Lucifer, they're trying to position themselves as anti-Christian, really, which is not the same thing as actually believing in worshiping the devil.
Or
I don't think anybody really meaningfully worships the devil and has sacrifices and all that shit. It just seems crazy, right?
I mean,
Who would do that? What do they think they're going to accomplish?
I don't know. It's like when like vampires were the thing. Now it's Lucifer. One could be just someone who takes the pro-Lucifer interpretation, and the extreme ones are the ritualistic ones who like worship the Baphomet. I don't know what that is.
Well, I don't think the position that we ought to appreciate Satan's deliverance unto us, the understanding of good and evil, is really a religious position. I think it's a secular humanist position that tries to co-opt the Christian negative to kind of slap in the face Christianity. It's not really meaningfully Satanism in any sense. The reason I doubt this whole thing is that to worship Satan in any meaningful sense requires you to choose to intentionally be evil. That is to say, to not be defensible on any grounds. You can't say that I am righteous and good in this behavior. You just have to hide in the shadows and your evil way. But is anybody really like that? Have you ever met anybody like that?
My brother.
Yeah.
I'm just joking. I'm actually really joking.
I have met some people though. I have met some people in my life that there are some.
I'm way joking, but like, so if there's Luciferians, Lamar, are there like angel people? Are like the Victoria's Secret angels like really like angels, and like Leonardo DiCaprio knows something we don't?
I think his position would be that Christianity is the alternative to Luciferianism. That to the extent that Luciferians are, engage with demons, then
I was joking about that too.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I understand that there are evil people, and that when you have somebody who's particularly wicked, for example, a mass murderer or something like that, that they're going to try to find some sort of narratives to go along with their wickedness to make them feel less just brazenly and overtly, pointlessly wicked.
Yeah.
But the thing to remember there is the narrative follows the self, not leads the self. And I think that's the problem a lot of times. What Lawnmower is assuming is that everybody's behavior follows their narratives. Most people's behavior does not follow their narratives. Most of the time, people's narratives follow their behaviors.
It's true.
My behavior follows my narrative by and large in terms of constraint, but not necessarily in terms of indication. So I'm not necessarily very good at following through on what I say I'm going to do, but I'm good at not doing what I say I'm not going to do.
True.
So it's like, James, this is the thing. I've said before, I oppose evangelism of any sort. So in that regard, I'm not in favor of pro-Christian rhetoric telling you should be Christian. I'm also don't give a damn about whether some TV show makes Lucifer look cool. I don't see that as bad or somehow evangelizing towards evilness or away from Christianity. It's just a story that's using some commonly weighted, heavily weighted character. It's got a lot of people have a lot of associations with the character of Satan or Lucifer. He's as archetypal as you get, the great,
He
grand,
really is.
holy, evil, whatever.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it looks kind of cheesy in that it looks like it's watchable. Like, I think it's watchable for a wide audience. I don't think they're trying to make their viewers gain respect for Lucifer at all.
Well, what James says there is important. Sympathizing with the character is not the same as sympathizing with evil. And so in that regard, you could talk about, in fact, Milton's Paradise Lost. Milton's poem, Paradise Lost, is about the fall of Lucifer from an angel into a state of being the devil, you know? And of course, the thing is, during that process of writing that epic poem, Satan is humanized to some extent. You understand him as having fallen victim to some frailty that is common to both the devil and human beings. So it's not like we are immune from those behaviors ourselves. Now, you would say, of course, for a while, it's something called normalizing. What are they trying to normalize, though? I mean, and why? It's like, just because there's a story in which the devil is portrayed as a sympathetic character, remember, then that character is sympathetic in some ways. To the extent that he's genuinely sympathetic, he deviates from what the devil actually represents, and that makes it an interesting storyline.
Yeah.
The idea that you can get people to worship the devil by getting them to like how he's a nice guy is totally missing the point. If they start worshiping a nice guy, they're not really worshiping the devil, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change anything or move anything. And regardless, it should be normalized, the idea that people tell stories with these archetypes, that they're not sacred, that they're not dangerous in some way to tell these stories. The idea that it is, that's frustrating. Of course it's not dangerous. There's nothing dangerous or wrong at all about telling stories with those kind of archetypes in them.
Yeah, I mean,
God disapproves of your disapproval.
The truth is that there's all these crazy stories about the Pope now. Like, I know you're Christian, not Catholic, but I mean, there's tons of like new shows and movies regarding like the Pope, and it's not like nice stuff either. It shows how they can be jerks, like big time. So what's worse, like a cheesy Lucifer show? His name is Lucifer, for God's sake. It's not even like the devil or Satan. It's Lucifer.
I mean, the thing is, to the extent that the show provokes people to think about those matters at all, and provoke some sort of argumentation about it, the argumentation is not going to favor. It's not going to favor the side of unaccountable evil, right? Or sin is good or something. Now, look, sure, some sin has the allure of fun, or at least the allure of, I guess, you'd say, intensity, you know, like sex, gambling, drugs. Again, Lawnmower, I don't feel responsible in the way that you do for other people's narratives. I respect and understand the nature and quality of narrative, which is to say, when you try to treat narratives as sacred, you fall victim to the same pre-Enlightenment thinking that the Muslims fall victim to. Namely, you prioritize your sacred over others' free expression. Whether you say it ought to be criminalized or not, you're saying the expression is bad because it uses a character in a way that you don't like. That's not appropriate. You're wrong. God doesn't approve. God agrees with me that it's fine for people to make whatever narratives they want with whatever characters however they want. In the end, the actual moral issues aren't about that kind of thing. They aren't about that. Nobody falls victim to Luciferianism because they see a show in which, I mean, it's like, are you crazy?
You know, and if they do, there's something not right there. I'm sorry, but it's true.
It's like it's time to pull out of the singularity frame that you're locked into and realize that things are much more complicated than that in the world. Much more complicated than that.
And I think honestly, I've seen TV shows where they have had actual like evil characters where you can't wait for them to die off because they're just so terrible. And that show doesn't seem like, it just seems like...
Right, so teenagers do sometimes do freaky shit like that, where they get crazy about a given piece of media. Note that I mean that. So what are you trying to say there, Lenore? How many more examples do you have of kids who take a narrative and go crazy with it and do something incredibly stupid? Probably some. But that is part of an immaturity that you're demonstrating, a failure to understand the clear distinction between narrative and reality. Now, it is true that some people fail to distinguish between that. Mostly people get out of that mistake at a certain point. You seem to be embracing it as a good idea, to be super attached and married to specific narratives to the exclusion of all else, and think it's a good idea that everything gets framed through that. Why are you so concerned about the impact of like magical evil when you're not concerned? It's just
not right now. I'm not asking now, but could you do me? That's what she said.
Email. Wait, hold on. Let me respond to email Anthrax. Email Anthrax. I have listened to his argument, okay? There are plenty of examples, and I agree, of individuals who have emulated or somehow acted out in a way that links to a piece of media. But that's an example of the kind of immaturity that people need to grow through and grow out of. It's a risk implicit to an age of person, an age and level of development of person. It's not a risk implicit or endogenous, or whatever you want to say, to the media, okay? So there's nothing wrong with a given piece of media that somebody goes crazy about. I could go crazy about The Great Pumpkin from Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
That wouldn't make anything about The Great Pumpkin bad. And you need to understand that. That's simply how it is. I mean, it's like, the thing is, I've run this topic plenty of times. Violent video games should be somehow regulated because they lead to the data just simply is not there. It is not there. I could pull up the cards on it if I wanted to, or read the cards to you, but it's simply, they've done lots of studies on this stuff, and the data is not there. It does not support the claim that there's a link between violent video games and violent behavior, even though you can point to some examples of it, right? Remember, the person who's violent is going to link it to something. When we focus on what they link it to, so, for example, if I were violent towards Dustin Salisbury, and I said the reason I was violent to Dustin Salisbury is because I didn't like his hat, then a wrong person might conclude that bad hat choices were responsible for violence. That would be an example of poor thinking, right? So we've got to recognize that, yes, people who act badly give reasons that aren't good justifications for their bad behavior because they don't have any good justifications. That doesn't mean we should take their bad justification very seriously. No, nothing. What is promoting a hidden ideology? Lucifer is not promoting a hidden ideology. That's not true. You're interpreting anybody's usage of a character in ways that you don't like as promoting a hidden ideology. The reality is those people don't have any ideology about this. They don't give a fuck about your Christianity or your beliefs. They aren't Lucifer worshippers. They think Christianity is probably dumb, and they're secular humanists who are using the character to good effect to draw an audience. It's as simple as that. That's where we use Occam's razor and we go, okay, be sensible. Be sensible. All right, so you see my hat analogy is pretty determinate here, right? That yes, people will always claim some stupid ass reason to justify their bad behavior. And that, of course, if we focus on that bad, stupid ass reason, we are allowing ourselves to be hoodwinked. Hoodwinked by the criminal who's trying to justify their bullshit. I mean, it's not their views, right? It's a story. It's a story designed to garner an audience. You're presuming that these people have an agenda that they're working. Their agenda, I'm sure, is the same as everybody else's agenda who's making media. They want to garner an audience. Now, there are people for whom that's not their concern. Those people make horribly depressing documentaries that nobody wants to watch. They're more concerned about getting their message out than they are about entertaining people. And those videos and shows and stuff don't get watched. Now, these people, however, are not interested in that, obviously. What are they actually interested in? If you want to talk about their actual motivations, Lawnmower, what are they actually interested in? They're not thinking about this at all. They're not thinking about the fact that Lucifer is like actually the devil or anti-Christian. They're not thinking about any of that shit. What do they actually care about? This fun story they're writing with this fun character called Lucifer. And, telling whatever story they're telling to get an audience. Well, I'm sure that's their worldview. There's nothing wrong with them making media consistent with and validating under their own framework. This is what I'm talking about when evangelism becomes evil. Evangelism is telling other people what framework they ought to use. If somebody wants to ask you your opinion or how you go about doing your spirituality, fine. You shouldn't go around telling other people how they should do it, though. That's just fucking stupid. I mean, and that's a pretty good message, right? If the show Lucifer's message is no matter who you are, you can overcome evil. Even Lucifer can overcome evil and become a good person, because that's the central message of Christianity, right? We can all be forgiven. None of us are perfect. We're all sinners, etc. So, I mean, why police everybody's stories and assume that it's behind some sort of plot to push some sort of narrative that opposes yours when most people don't even have an opinion about the narrative? Yeah, you can ask, you can voice your opinion. I'm not telling you not to voice your opinion. Did I say that? I hope I didn't say that. I don't think I said that. It's like what I'm saying is it doesn't make any sense, right? To think that they have some sort of agenda. Because like I've written stories like my book Gospel of the Pantheon. It's about gods, right? And humans and mortals, an alternate universe where there's multiple gods and stuff. I'm not advocating in favor of pantheism, for goodness sakes. Right? Do we all understand this? That when I wrote my book, Gospel of the Pantheon, which is a story that has multiple gods in it and mortals and magic and stuff, is anybody saying that I was trying to argue in favor of pantheism? Because if you are incorrect. That was not my intention. I'm not a pro-pantheist. I wrote a story with a universe, a story universe that had multiple gods. One of them was called Entropitripocles, who is basically like the devil. And he was portrayed as kind of cool in the thing. Because, of course, the devil is attractive in some fashion. That's reality. It's part of an accurate portrayal of the devil. If he had no appeal at all, there'd be nothing to worry about. If the devil was like Jabba the Hutt, he wouldn't attract many adherents, right?
Okay, I'm just gonna say it too. If Jesus wasn't so attractive, I don't think he would get so many followers either. Just saying. It's true.
So, Lawnmower, 3D or Nomad is not proving your point. He's demonstrating the fact that some people have that position. That doesn't prove your point. People have always had that position for a long time now. It's a perfectly understandable position to have. It's consistent with secular humanism, right? That indeed the human will ought to be paramount, and we ought to be held accountable for our will and stuff like that. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. The problem is that you are mistaking understanding the devil from sort of a human perspective as embracing or accepting evil. Those are different things.
Doesn't this girl look like the boy from that movie?
Oh yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah, she does. What's her name?
It's something King, Joey King. I thought they were related, but they're not.
Does Rachel believe in sexy Jesus? Don't we all?
Obviously.
No. I mean, the thing is, if they were to accurately portray Jesus in those stained glass windows, he looks a lot more like Fabio than they typically show him. He's pretty cut. I do, Kyra. I know. He looked a lot like Fabio. Look, the point is, let's not get caught up on these groupish shit, right? Those people who don't agree with you are the enemy advocating a contrary position to yours. That's not the case, Lawnmower. It's like these people don't give a fuck about your whole line of thinking. They're not thinking about it. They're not Luciferians. They probably don't even identify exactly as secular humanists. I'm just saying if you were going to describe them as something, that would be probably accurate to describe them as. If they have an agenda, it's probably some sort of stupid leftist identity politics agenda. It's not related to Lucifer. Nobody advocates in favor of Lucifer in any meaningful way, right? Nobody's saying, yes, let's actually embrace supervillain style evilness and be in favor of all this awful shit. Nobody says that I ever hear. No. Jesus looked like David Beckham crossed with Kate Moss. Okay, listen, if you didn't call them Luciferians, actually, I think you did. I'm pretty sure you did. I'm not sure I said you said they were, but I might have. And if I was falsely claiming that, then possibly. But I'm pretty sure you did say that. Well, let's just say this is different because this is promoting a hidden ideology. Shows like Lucifer, etc., aren't neutral entertainment. I mean, that's the thing. So do you think they knowingly are promoting a hidden ideology, or do you think that they are unknowingly promoting a hidden ideology? Because maybe that's the only point where we necessarily differ here. They may be suggesting, I mean, first of all, I don't think that portraying the devil as having human qualities, being even likable or good or something, is necessarily a bad thing, because it will show that when the devil behaves well and is good, then he can attain the good, just like every other human being. It's the same basic message. If, however, it's saying that, here, look at the devil being evil and think highly of it, well, I don't think that shit really flies in movies or TV shows. Like, if you see, even like we were watching Grease and a little bit of Grease the other day, and There's some like
Finish it.
there's some I don't want to finish it. There's some like bully the nerd thing that I think is supposed to be played for laughs. It doesn't play at all in the modern age at all.
No, at all.
It just seems awful.
I'm like-
And that's the reality of it. It's like people, if somebody in the show is bad to somebody else in an evil way, and it's the show's trying to justify it as like cool in some way, I don't think that is going to fly. I don't think people are going to think that's cool, and I think people will judge it immediately.
Yeah.
So it's like you need to remember that good and evil and God and the devil transcend their symbols. It's like you're obsessed with the symbols of things at the expense of the reality of things. The reality of things is God wants you to support free expression and everybody's association with these symbols in ways that help them evolve themselves, right?
You know, honestly, I think that sevens have the best relationship with religion. I really do.
Yeah. I think
'Cause-
I've got a great relationship with religion.
Yeah. Mine has been growing. I've become more and more spiritual as I've gotten older, and I will say spiritual.
Me too.
You're my special one.
I love you.
I love you.
You're my noble majesty. Thanos,
Thanos so upset.
if you stop Thanos, you guarantee extinction. That's not true. I mean, first of all, if you don't stop Thanos and he kills half the life, then you just create huge gaps in the ecosystem that can be immediately filled in with more members of a given species. So it's not like you're gonna have less life than you used to for very long. Eric, is it advisable to have mini shrines of Gilgamesh? I don't even have a single one, so I'm not sure. The Avengers movie should have ended with the consequences of reversing the snap. You mean
Like snap.
like
and
just
then-
not have Iron Man's death, or just have him die but no funeral, or what? I agree. It went on too long at the end of that movie.
Yeah, I'll agree with that as well. And thanks, Astrid the Earthling.
Thanos' plan was ridiculous. The movies were great though. I
Yes,
agree.
they are. They are great.
Eric, I have feelings for a woman, but I don't like her name. What should I do? You should rename her Carmen Electra.
That's what Prince did.
Rachel just told me that
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah, I think her real name's like Christine or something, or she has a whole like interview about how he kind of, I don't want to say that he made her, but she says it.
Okay, well, look here, James. See, that's the thing. That's the thing about your ends justifying the means. Well, how do we know that, Thanos, that you couldn't come up with a way to do this that doesn't kill half of the life? That's still, why don't you make more planets if you can do anything with this thing? It's a good point, James. You were assuming Thanos couldn't make more planets. Why are you affording him the benefit of the doubt? He was justifying the means by the end, so, you know.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask if you could do me a read.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Bae. I pulled the Five of Cups for myself today. And I don't know what it was that made me bummed. Oh yeah, it was the continuation of the fires that bummed me out.
Look, I'm not excusing a given show an underlying message. I'm saying that the underlying message of a show is good or bad depending on what sort of values it upholds in the show, not the name of the characters. So if Lucifer in the show upholds a positive value, then that means the show is upholding positive values. Whether the fact that they're having the devil display these positive values is just something that makes the show stand out, I guess, but it's still upholding positive values. That's the thing I'm trying to say, is if you are overly concerned with the labels then you're worried about the devil seeming positive, because nobody should associate something positive with this awful thing, the devil. You get it backwards, right? It's like people understand what the devil is according to this standard of his evil. If they see the character of the devil behaving good, it's not going to motivate them to think to be more like the evil devil. It's going to motivate them to be more like the good character they see in the show. Now, the good character in the show may be named Lucifer, but people aren't so ridiculously attached to the label that they're going to assume that therefore, because they like this character named Lucifer in a show who does good, that they should emulate this other character named Lucifer in his book who does evil. It doesn't make sense. You have to think. It just doesn't make any fucking sense.
Separating the two is really important.
If you can't tell the difference between the Lucifer in a TV show and the Lucifer in the Bible, then I mean, there's no hope for anybody about anything. We have to control every piece of information that ever leaves anybody's mouth, because everybody's so vulnerable to bad ideas.
And
why are you getting Thanos that credit? Why are you assuming he would have done a better job if there were a way to do a better job? He doesn't seem to me like the kind of guy you would trust to have exhausted all possible alternatives that don't include slaughtering half the population, because he seems so comfortable with it. Oh, well, I mean, if you and Thanos go way back, that's fine. That's another matter then. Fine. You connected, you bonded. I wasn't there. I don't know that kind of intimacy. I get it. James is an example of those many people. James's position is nothing to do with Thanos or the devil, though. It has to do with utilitarianism. Utilitarianism has plagued humanity for a long time. That doesn't mean that everybody who's utilitarian is satanic or Luciferian. I mean, we can't look. I don't like TE either. Okay, I don't like TE either, lawnmower. But that doesn't make it the devil. All right.
Really.
Yes, utilitarianism sucks. It doesn't mean that everybody who speaks with utilitarian justifications is a Satanist, for God's sakes.
Here's the thing, doesn't everyone have some sort of thing that they like to watch that isn't that great, and then it's just a fantasy world? Can't that exist? I don't understand why we should be, you said to me one time, policing people's thoughts and their stuff.
Yeah, don't police people's thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Why are you policing people's thoughts? Anyone else notice how unicorns are everywhere? Why are people using unicorns to advertise toilets and financial services? Just tell me. It's all good. You'll see them everywhere now. Just me? It's all good. You'll see them everywhere now. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I've seen unicorns since 2015. It's been trendy. I don't think it's a recent thing. It's just maybe become more mainstream from kid stuff.
Okay, well, one more. Look, you said they're pushing a secret agenda, and it runs contrary to a Christian agenda. You've indicated in the past that such behavior is consistent with a group of people you refer to as Luciferians or Satanists. So it's not a huge leap here that I'm making. Even if you can literally say, well, you didn't invoke those terms yourself. Certainly it was not an unreasonable conclusion to draw, given the topic and everything. Hi, Cameron.
Hello, talking with famous individuals and Eric, and I should say, and Rachel and Eric.
Aw, that's so appropriate.
Bam.
That's so nice. We have something for you, actually. We got this from Sunrise.
Oh, okay. I just saw David outside who was.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, lawnmower. Well, I don't mean to open your.
That's
I
nice.
guess-
I'm so glad that
I
you.
guess it's a fair critique.
Isn't
It's a
it
fair
great?
critique.
I was so happy to get the note. And that was
Very
so
positive.
nice of you.
Happy
It's
to help. Yeah,
yeah.
that's cool. Hey, it was David's idea. He just knows I
Yeah.
would be willing to sew.
It is fair to critique me on civility grounds there.
It was group effort then.
I don't exactly.
So you guys are mid live stream.
Yeah, we're just waiting for you, basically.
All right. Well, hey, do you want to ride and smoke or smoke and ride?
Let's smoke then ride.
Smoke
Yeah.
ride.
Okay. I'm gonna.
Or you want to
Like my
try
tie.
this? This is the
Yes,
Skywalker.
Skywalker. It's pretty good.
Quite tasty.
Sweet. Is
Yeah.
this from the local place?
Yeah, it's from Weed Mart.
If you want to try my mix, here we go.
Ooh.
Coolio.
Wow. It's all, I have a few. They're all just the
Cool.
same. And I forgot to bring the goop for the other bike tire. Oops.
Oh, but I
Next
can.
time.
I can
I've
use.
got two things though. I've got two things to
Okay,
I got the
cool.
bike, the electric bike, and I have the electric scooter.
Sweet. So
And
either
Eric
one.
is
Then.
already electric. So
Yeah.
I'll ride my
Seriously.
bicycle. It's fine.
You are.
Yeah, Lawnmower, you're right to be a little bit mad at me. I guess I'm sorry.
This is
I
a
had to
nice
think about
making
it.
up of.
I had to think about it
But-
for a while. If I'm actually sorry,
Can
I
I-
think I am.
But this is coming from me. A little bit of chillness. Just a little on the subject, okay? Because, like, there are many people who come into our community and you don't know their background at all. So, just
Well, the point
A
is, I
little bit.
guess in this instance, he would say that he was being somewhat chill about it, and I
He-
was affixing onto him less chillness than was actually to be
Well-
correctly described, which is a fair enough critique, and that's fine.
weed smells awesome.
But the thing is, Lawnmower, my point is that totalizing worldviews, things that you frame everything through, lead to totalitarianism. You know, you got to be willing to frame things in multiple perspectives and understand things that the words one uses and the stories one uses and stuff don't necessarily they aren't what they necessarily look like, right?
I'm not biased. How would I be biased? I feel like thanks, Astrid. We'd be sharing if you were here. And
What are you saying
Yeah.
that I need to be careful with? I'm not sure what you're saying.
You
I'm
caught it.
yeah, you
not.
did.
Woo. That's what cool people do. I'm gonna bet Eric has lighter gas.
I do.
I'm gonna bet
Right
behind
there.
The photo in the back. Oh, no.
Right there. You're gonna have to explain what you mean, Torvis. I don't know. Are you saying I'm conflating the two? I didn't think I conflated the two. I think I indicated that utilitarianism is an old evil.
Have you ever seen the show Lucifer or heard about it? Yeah.
Netflix, or-
Yeah, it is. It is. So you might have seen it. Mm-hmm.
I never get into like the occult or the Zodiac. I watched Forensic Files on the Zodiac killer dude, and that was creepy enough.
Yo, man,
I go,
that movie is on Netflix too, the Zodiac. And,
creepy mofo.
Yeah, man. Like, I saw it once, and then I started watching it like again, thinking it wouldn't affect me. And then I started right away, and I'm like,
My problem is I get obsessive about a TV show. And Investigative Reports has like 9 seasons of 20 hours. Like, that's a lot of investigative reports to go around. So I'm on like season 9 of investigative reports of like luminol and what is that?
You mean like
Super
CSI
glue-
shit?
Super glue print bonding stuff where like you got latent prints and you put a thing around the fingerprint and you put super glue there and the super glue gases go and attach to the print. All of a sudden you've got a good print. There's like so much cool shit in
That is some
investigative
cool
reports.
shit.
You can get obsessed because it's like you always get a new sciencey thing. It's not like
it's
The
true.
Simpsons, which is just always some slapstick stuff that I want to talk about live, but like science,
Yeah.
the science, and like the murder. I'm not so much with the murder, but like the science is really interesting.
That does sound interesting. I'm interested in that goop.
Yeah.
That stuff would definitely.
Freaking 9. It's like 180 hours of murder investigation to watch on Netflix. It goes forever.
My cousin's fiance is obsessed with like murder mysteries like that, crime scenes, and she
Yeah.
listens to a podcast about it. And she gets frightened. She like will listen to it, and she'll be like on the way home. She's like, "Oh my gosh!" And I was kind of like, "Well, why do you watch it?" And it's like, some people just enjoy that stuff. Like,
Well, this is the thing that what comes up every like 20th episode is the looky-loo is the murderer. The person who goes back to the crime scene, the creepy neighbor who's like, "What are you guys doing over here?"
Oh my
with the murdered
gosh.
body?" That's the killer. FYI.
oh,
You ever see some creepy dude going around the murder site? You better get his DNA.
it's good to know. Oh my god, I don't want to know that person.
And DNA has progressed so much in the past 20, 30 years that whereas 30 years ago, if you had a cigarette butt, you might not get DNA off it, but now they can multiply the DNA with some techniques and then read the DNA as though the sample were larger. So if you have the most microscopic DNA, totally profilable, and if that guy's already a criminal, if you're a murderer, you're probably a fucking criminal.
That's
Your DNA's
usually
already in there.
That's Cameron.
It's great.
That's Cameron talking.
Yeah.
Cameron's here, guys.
As far as all these various things here in the chat, let me do quick answers.
I internalize a lot of things, so I like. Oh, you know what I used to.
I would
watch?
say that. Let me answer this question here. That when you're talking about like people seriously connected with Thanos, they may start to have
American
justification for genocide. First of all,
crime stories.
Anthro, as it's called, is a debate that long precedes Thanos. Let me tell you that. It's like people have been running Anthro in debate for years, saying we ought to prioritize the environment over human life.
Not science. It's like,
Hi, Bill Walden.
O.J. Simpson case. That was the first one
They don't.
did.
That
Oh
they,
my
the block
God.
doesn't win.
And
The thing
then,
is,
like,
what is a K in debate?
I think
It's a critique
the
that
second
is
or
basically an
third one,
off-case
maybe?
argument, usually run by the neg. So
they did.
it says
Jimmy
it doesn't matter
Versace's-
whether the app wins their case under their framework because
Like, that was interesting.
Yeah.
because there's there's some sort of violation. There's different kinds of Ks, but you can critique the resolution in theory. You can
No, I couldn't
critique
get through it. I was having
discourse, like they
nightmares.
say they talk the
Yeah.
wrong way. You could critique a given kind of argumentation, something like that.
What kind of evil parent says you're special? The kid got the biggest room in their house, and the other kids are like, "Yeah, you go do soccer." This kid gets Gucci.
Really?
So
Like, they created a monster.
So the whole idea of an anthro K is basically saying whatever you're arguing here is based on the assumption that we ought to benefit human beings instead of animals, and that's what's wrong with it. So forget about their case because they are arguing on the wrong premise that human beings' well-being matters more than animal well-being, and we should negate that and therefore, well, that's called an anthro K. It's basically saying even if humans die, it's okay if it means we preserve the environment better.
It's weird for that.
It doesn't usually win, right? It doesn't win because it runs afoul of too many other sort of justification blocks. And
That's the mindfuck thing.
and so it's certainly not the case that teaching kids to run that in debate is a bad idea because they learn why it ultimately doesn't win, or when it does win, why it does win. It's because you catch them off guard or something with it. If you haven't busted it out in a while. So you go, okay, I'm surprised with Anthro, and the problem, they might not have heard of it or whatever. Is it possible a person with dominant intuition could use loud music to escape that function and control SE better? It's possible, more likely with dominant NI than with dominant NE, although possibly with both, actually.
He's all talky like.
I would say I'm more SE cool when I'm rocking out, Okay, so I'm gonna wrap this up, and Cameron and Rachel and I are gonna go on a bicycle ride. Thank you all for being here. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.
No, but still, you could have that personality and not,
Just like, yeah, it was.